kids. This section of the Nearpod is going to just be me recording myself reading the article about homelessness. Um, so bear in mind we are going to be focusing on summarizing nonfiction, main ideas, and supporting details in nonfiction texts and articles. Um, Also keep in mind that the topic is homelessness, so we already know what this article is going to be about, but we need to be focusing on the main idea, which is what is the author trying to teach us or make us learn about homelessness. And you can have um, the PowerPoint pulled up if you need to, which I might suggest. Um, that way you can, if you need help, it's there for you also. So what I'm going to be doing is reading, and also keep in mind, I know I'm giving you a lot of things to hold in your brain right now, but also keep in mind that each paragraph does have its own main idea, but that they all connect and support the overall main idea of an article, okay? So don't let one main idea fool you. Remember, we have to add them all together to create the main idea for the entire article. All right, so here we go. About homelessness. Homelessness is an issue that affects people of every age and from every country. If you walk down the street in many big cities in the United States, you might notice people sleeping on the sidewalk or begging for food or money. These individuals are very visible to passerby, and it is difficult to ignore them. But there are also homeless people who do not sleep on the streets. They are not as visible to the public eye, but they are also homeless. These people often spend their nights sleeping in shelters, which provide food, rooms, and often a variety of social services, like daycare. We might not see these people in the streets, but it does not mean that they aren't suffering. When thinking about homelessness, one of the first questions that might come to mind is, why are people homeless? People become homeless for a variety of reasons, often outside of their own control. Two key reasons for having been identified on why people become homeless are: the first is lack of affordable housing. The second is poverty, or the condition of being poor. The government is usually responsible for providing affordable or cost-effective housing to people and families in need. It builds large apartment buildings or housing developments for people who cannot afford to live elsewhere. Sometimes there is not enough affordable housing for all the people who need it. Those who are unable to secure housing may become homeless. Homelessness and poverty are quite clearly linked. Poor people must often choose between such important things as buying food or paying for medical care versus paying rent. When poor people are faced with these difficult decisions, housing is often the first expense to be dropped because it generally requires the largest amount of money. Many of the homeless in America are simply unable to find jobs due to lack of opportunity. Others are mentally ill or addicted to drugs. Still others who are homeless have previously relied on public assistance like EBT or WIC check, but have lost that assistance for one reason or another. An example of a public assistance program is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which provides help for people who struggle to afford healthy and nutritious food. There are three distinct kinds of homelessness. The first is called chronic homelessness, and it represents the group of people who move from shelter to shelter in a seemingly never-ending cycle. The chronically homeless are usually older, and they are often disabled or suffer from addiction. The second type of homelessness is called transitional homelessness, and it describes people who must enter a shelter for a short period of time. For example, if they are evicted from their homes for not being able to pay rent, they might go into a shelter or enter government-based transitional housing. They may live there for up to 2 years until they are able to get back on their feet. The third kind of homelessness is called episodic homelessness, kind of like an episode, which accounts for people who move in and out of shelters at various points throughout their life. Those who experience episodic homelessness usually have difficulty maintaining steady employment. People who are considered transitionally homeless and those who are episodically homeless are often young. Homelessness rises when people are unable to find or keep jobs, but it also affects people who are not even employed in the first place, children under 16 years old. According to a report in 2014 by the National Center on Family Homelessness, 1 in every 30 children experience homelessness that year. As minors, children under 16 are not legally allowed to work. Most families that experience homelessness are made up of a mother and her children. Some adults in homeless families in the United States are working, yet the wages are often not enough to support the various needs of a family, like healthcare, food, and shelter. Furthermore, many families try to stay out of shelters. Shelters can be noisy, overcrowded, and stressful places for both children and parents. These families would often rather stay in the homes of friends or relatives, or even sleep in their cars. Families that experience homelessness in any situation are under a ton of stress due to lack of stability and privacy. There are no simple solutions to this major social issue, but homelessness affects too many people around the world to be ignored.